Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live presentation titled OPC to Excel. This is the second part of a two-part series. My name is Randy, and I am the presenter today. So in this webinar, we're talking about getting OPC data into Excel. We'll talk about the problem itself, the solution, then we'll show the actual Excel connection, where I'll show you how to archive real-time data and then get that history back with Excel's add-in and also with the task pane. At the end of the webinar, I'll show you how to get a copy of this webinar, so a webinar recording, and also how to download OPC Expert. So controller data into Excel. Obviously, Excel is a very, very popular analysis tool because automation people, IT people, everybody seems to know it extremely well, and it's very, very easy to create calculations and reports. Now, in previous webinars, I actually showed you how to get real-time OPC data into Excel. So we saw that there were webinars showing it. We have a recording of these webinars. Go to the website. You can take a look at these. In this case, we're talking about getting historical data into Excel. So you've got real-time data from the controllers. How do we get this historical data into Excel? So let's take a look at that. So in this case, we have a couple of controllers. We want to get this data into Excel. OPC is obviously a very convenient mechanism for us to get that data. Unfortunately, Excel cannot communicate with OPC directly. So what we're using is another tool, OPC Expert in this case, to get the data into Excel. Now, we'll do two tasks. Number one, we will archive data, archive real-time data, so that we have something to start to get historical data from. Number two, once we have that history, we'll show the OPC connection in Excel using the add-in and also the task pane, which is brand new for OPC Expert. Now, the key features we'll show are these. First of all, as far as OPC support, you can get real-time data from the OPC server. So we've seen that before, using OPC UA or OPC Classic using DA, data access, real-time data. But if you have a historian, you can actually use OPC UA HA or OPC Classic using HDA, historical data access. So if you have, for example, Pi or Info Plus 21 or Honeywell PhD or Yokogawa Exa Quantum or Emerson Process Historian and on and on and on and on. If you have any one of those historians or even others, many others, you can actually get the data directly using this add-in that we will see in a little bit. So there's OPC support for UA and also for OPC Classic. As far as Excel, there's 32-bit and 64-bit support. So for both, on both Excel 2003, all the way to Excel 2019. So in essence, Office 365. So pretty much every version of Excel that you've got out there. As far as the communication, OPC Expert supports all the security profiles. It does local and remote OPC servers using DCOM and also OPC UA, so TCP/IP, HTTP, HTTPS. So it supports all of those communication mechanisms, and it can, of course, run as a Windows service if that's what you need. As far as getting the history, you can either use an external historian, like I talked about, so that's over here, or if you don't have a historian, or for one reason or other, which I'll talk about later, you want to use your own historian, OPC Expert actually comes with its own historian, so you can use the OPC Expert historian. To do this, no programming. You can use existing calculations which exist in the process historian itself. So you don't need to do your own calculations. And you can read raw data, that's the data that's actually stored in the historian, or what's called interpolated data or calculated data. And you can create your own custom or bespoke reports. And that's really what this is about. And very important here, there's no need to create your own CSV files to export from your story and import into Excel, export from Excel, import into the story. No need to do any of that. That's really the power here, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. So let's take a look at OPC Expert's architecture. What we're looking at right now is what's inside OPC Expert. So we begin with client software, client modules, I should say, to bring in OPC data into OPC Expert. So that includes OPC DA and OPC UA. So you can connect to OPC DA and UA data sources. That moves into OPC Expert's intelligent engine, which exposes everything to Excel via the RTD or the add-in. Now, you can send data into Excel files, or if you want, you can store them in SQL. You can store data in SQL Server, or Access, or XML files, or CSV files, whatever you want. Now, there are other ways to get data into OPC Expert, other ways to get OPC data out of OPC Expert. But in this case, we're very specifically talking about OPC data in and Excel out. So we're not talking about the other mechanisms here. So again, what we're talking about here is task number one. So first thing is we will archive real-time data within OPC Expert to capture the real-time data, and then we'll do some data analysis on it. And again, just remember, if you already have a historian, you don't need to do this. You just begin with this. So let's do a demo. I'll show you my computer. There we go. So there's the computer itself. Let's expand it. All right. And just to keep everybody focused, I've got a few notes here of things that I want you to take a look at. So number one, I'm going to start, before I start OPC Expert, we will open the file location. So here, what I want you to notice is when you download OPC Expert, it's only one file. And so there's no installation needed. In fact, what you can do when you run it, so I'm double clicking it, what you can see is all these files are extracted, everything is automatic, and here is OPC Expert starting. So no changes to Windows registry, doesn't pollute anything, and it starts, begins running right here. Now, just to make the point, if I close OPC Expert, then oh boy, I've had enough of OPC Expert, I've used it for a while, I want to get rid of it. Well, I just select everything, I won't delete OPC Expert.exe, but I can delete everything, and there, it's gone. So there's no pollution of your computer at all. Okay, so everything we're going to be doing here, we're going to be working with the default settings. Now, if you're going to download OPC Expert, or if you think you have it already, pay attention to the version number. So I'm using version 8.1.2008.26. If you have an earlier version of OPC Expert, make sure you go back to the website to opcexpert.com and you download the latest. So this is the version I'm using here for this demo here, and that's available on OPC Expert's website. So we'll click OK. All right, so there we go. Now let's archive some data. And again, I'm showing you this here, so we are focused on what we're going to do next. So we'll archive data. So I'll open up this PC, and I see I've got several OPC servers here. I'll go and connect to Kepware. And I've done this before, so you've seen this in other webinars. We'll go and we'll browse. Here we go. We're subscribing to some data, and I'll show you more of that. We'll go to ramp. I'll take ramp 1, ramp 2. Okay. So we've got this information here. This is coming from a Kepware OPC server. There we go. We can see we can see some information here. Different data types, strings, singles, doubles, so floats, integers, and so on. So all of those are in here. Now we'll archive this data. So to archive, we just select all of the items. So I'm just selecting. Then we right click and archive Here I'll choose CSV files. There are a bunch of different options we can have, but I'm just going to use the default. One thing that I want you to notice is that in this case, we're only archiving values of change. So we're only archiving on data change to save space. So for example, current, every change is being archived, but you see custom here, it's still string 0. It is not being archived. Well, it was archived once, but that's it. So it's not being archived every second, and that saves a huge amount of space. So anyway, this file name will be called history. Now look here, there'll be another folder created. So watch. So there is expert CSV files. There is the archive. You can see it right here. Icons are changed, and you can see that the data is changing. And the actual CSV files are right here. So there is the CSV files are right in this folder. Okay. So just to save us some space, I'm going to remove some columns. This is all local. Of course, this works remote too. You can connect to multiple OPC servers. In this case, it's Kepware. I'll leave the item name on. I don't care about the item ID for now. And again, this is really just to save some space because, there we go. I'm going to put this off to the side. Okay, we don't need this anymore, so I'll just close this. Now, just before, so we're now archiving data, and as I'm talking, we're archiving more data, which just gives us more data to work with. So next, we want to start up Excel. But before I talk about Excel and what's available in it, I want to show you what happens when there is no change. So when you just start Excel, typically your Excel will look like this. And what you're seeing here is there is no OPC, there's no OPC menu option right now. But if I go to OPC Expert Tools, Options, and I will enable Excel features, and I'll show the connection status when it's connected, click Apply. And by the way, one of the things that OPC Expert also figures out is, your separator is a comma, but if you're using a semicolon, just put it in here manually. Okay, so we'll just click OK. Now, again, we don't see an OPC option here because we need to start Excel, so we need to stop it and start it again. And now there is the OPC option right here. Okay, so we're ready to start taking a look at history. Now, the very first thing that I recommend you do when you're just starting to experiment with this is use historian data. Historian data, this particular option enables you to create some reports and configure reports automatically. And I'll show you how that's done. So I'll take flow. I'll take pressure, temperature. So all you do is you drag. So you notice I'm dragging and I'm dropping right in here. So I'm going to drop it. There we go. I dropped it. I'll close this. Okay. So you drag and you drop. These are the items we're going to be using. Instead of 6 hours, because that gives a whole lot of data, I'll just take 6 seconds just to make the point. Obviously, this is not a lot of data. And I'm going to choose raw. In other words, I just want to see the data that is actually being stored. And I want to show one row for all items right here. So the report will look something like this. We'll click OK. And there is the report. Now, remember, I'm on Mountain Time right now. So my time is 11:17, well, I guess 11:18 now. This is right at the end. So you can see that this is in real time. This is not For those of you who are watching a recording, you notice that it's 11:18 for me now, and it's 27th of August. Okay. So the nice thing with this is that it shows you the actual formula we're using right here. So it's expert raw and all this. Now you can do all of this by hand if you want, or you can use this historian data to do your configuration. But now I'll show you the task pane, which is what we're focusing on here. So here in this particular file here, I just am saving myself some typing. So right click, copy, right click, and we'll paste. So there we go. Now, computer name, this is the OPC server. I'll talk about that in a bit. Just want to look at the actual time here. So this is the time now. It's the time now. This is 5 minutes ago, now minus 5 minutes. And what I'll do is I will format, and this is, normally you don't do this, but in this case, we'll just add seconds. So seconds, just that you see what happens. And then if I press F9, I'm pressing F9 on my keyboard, you can see Excel is automatically, so F9, 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 F9. So that's me doing it. So Excel is automatically recalculating. Okay, so let's take a look at the task pane. So the task pane, this might be difficult for you to figure out by hand. So the task pane is very, very good for that. I will put the output, I'll put it right here, just to make it easier, to delete columns so I'm not disturbing anything. So I'll click Archive Value. So here we see the task pane, the Excel task pane. So there we go. So my computer is actually right here, OPC 01, that's the name of my computer. Select cell, so A11. This here is the OPC server. Now, if you're using, for example, Pi or InfoPlus21 or whatever, you would enter their URL. But in this case, I'm just using OPC Expert, so that's A12. The item is A13. That's this item right here. We'll change it in a bit. Start time is A14, and end time is A15. And the output, I want that output. I'll just put it here in E18. Select cell. So there's E18, and I will just make the output be 10 rows. Just so that it's small, we'll make it big right away. There we go. And I will 1 row for all items, and boom, there we go. So we can see just like that, we got the output. And if I do a count here, we can see the count is 10, so 10 seconds. 10 values. So we begin at 11:16 and 42 seconds, and it gives me 10 values all the way to 11:21. Of course, this isn't enough, so we can change it. But I just wanted you to see 10 items. Well, we get 10 items. If I delete this and I say, okay, I want, let's go for 500. Push values. Here, now keep in mind, empty values I have here, NA. So what we see here is the flow here at this time. Now keep in mind, 500 values is more than 5 minutes worth of value. So as I scroll down, and I'll scroll down here, when we pass the current time, 11:22, we can see everything is not applicable, right? Because we asked for 500 data values, and this is sometime in the future, and we don't know what that is. Okay, let's get back up. So here we go. But what I will do is, in fact, let's not make it so big, we'll make it 100. We'll get rid of this. I don't need this either. All right, push values, and there we go. Okay, so I'll take these items right here. So not everything. I could trend everything, but I'm not going to. Insert. This is where Excel gets powerful. And sure enough, there is our trend. And this is for flow. And once again, if I click F9 on my keyboard, forces Excel to recalculate. You can see this updates. Excel is recalculating. You can actually see that this is slowly moving from right to left. I'm just pressing F9, F9, F9. It's not automatically recalculated. You could do that, but not necessary. And you can see the history. It's pretty fast, actually. Now, what if I don't want flow? What if I want turbidity? Well, I just go into flow and change that to turbidity and enter. You can see everything changes. It's live, and so does the value, right? So the result changes. So if I click F9 again, what we're seeing are live values. Not live, I mean, this is a live, it's a fresh query. Okay, so we've got one item here that we're showing. So turbidity. Now, what if I wanted to do, say, 2 items? Well, first, in fact, let me delete this. We'll go in here, and I'll say turbidity, comma. I just did a paste. Let's do pressure. Yeah. Enter. So now, push values, and sure enough, we see both of them. And if I do this, insert, so we can see a trend. The blue and the blue are the same. If I click F9, everything is being updated. F9, F9, F9. You can even see the values are slowly moving up. There's 24, moving up, moving up, moving up. So very, very, very quickly. And you can go through and you can add whatever number of items you want. And there's no limit, of course. And you can configure your reports pretty easily by hand. Again, if you wanted to, you could use this and configure your reports automatically and then make changes, whatever, you could do that. Okay. So let me now get rid of this. And what I'll do is, instead of, let me go back to one item, just to make it simple. So I'll take turbidity as an example. Enter. Remember, it's one item, and I'll just make it a little bit prettier. Delete, and we'll push the values again. Okay, so there we go. So there is a turbidity, and again, F9, 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 everything is live. Okay. So now what I want to say is, I looked at, this is the raw data that's actually being stored, but instead I'm going to ask for processed or calculated data. The aggregate up until is going to be interpolative, but instead of getting the value once a second, I'm going to get it once every 10 seconds, and we'll push the values. Oh, I forgot. We need to delete these. This is an Excel limitation here, or an Excel feature. We'll push it, and there are the values every 10 seconds. So we see 5 seconds, 15, 25, 35, 45, 55, and so on. So it's every 10 seconds. So what we're seeing is the interpolated value every 10 seconds. Now, I didn't have to do that calculation in Excel. This is available directly from the historian. So we are making use of OPC UA calculations right here, or also known as aggregates. And these are every 10 seconds. And I didn't have to do anything in Excel. It's very, very fast. Now, what I'll also do is this. Over here, I'll add something else. So we're getting these every 10 seconds. But now what I'll do is I'll create another one right here, an I-18, and same item, turbidity, but this time I'll say, give me the max. So give me the maximum value every 10 seconds. So in other words, what I'm saying is, give me the maximum value for that 10-second period. We'll push the values. This is automatically recalculated. And here are the maximums for that time period. So what's interesting is, watch, I will take this, hold down the control key, and this, insert. So there you see the interpolated value every 10 seconds in blue. So in blue, it's the interpolated value every 10 seconds. And if I make these the same size, you'll see what I mean. You can see this blue, this blue, they're the same. We're talking about the same stuff here. Let me get rid of this. Oh. So we have more room. And now what you're seeing is this is the maximum for that 10-second period. So we're seeing the interpolated value every 10 seconds and the maximum value. So for example, maybe I want the maximum energy usage for every day in the past month. Well, easy. Just choose maximum. Or you want the interpolated value, maybe you want it every day approximately. Well, then you can use interpolated, or you can do both. So just like that, if I click F9, you can see it updated. Now, if I said instead of turbidity, I want to change my, I want pressure, everything is changed for pressure. Or if I want flow, it's very, very easy. All of a sudden now, nice little aliasing here. By the way, what this means is that at this time, the actual value was down here, but the maximum between here and here was actually up here, as you would expect with a sine wave. The point is that you don't need any calculations. I can just do this. So if I take, for example, poof, there's the maximum and there's the actual interpolated value. So there you go. We have seen now how to do, we looked at the historian data add-in. That's this one right here. We looked at the task pane, that's this here, doing one item, two items. Of course, you can do 10 items if you want, and doing the calculations. In this case, we did the maximum. And there we have it. Now, I'll go back to the presentation. And then, I've answered quite a few of your questions already. After I'll finish the presentation, I'll go back here for any questions that anybody might have that's still outstanding. So again, what we saw is we archive data in real time. So we have a storage, a database basically of a history of values, and then we got those values with the Excel add-in. So For automated troubleshooting, go ahead and download OPC Rescue or OPC Expert Automated Troubleshooting. It'll tell you what's actually wrong with your connections. Now, if you download OPC Expert enables you to trend, to bridge, meaning transfer data between OPC servers. You can tunnel, you can archive, you can do calculations, you can convert, so it acts as a converter from OPC UA to DA or DA to UA. Does Excel, which we just looked at, supports all the OPC specifications, UA, OPC Classic, and so on. So this is what you get with OPC Expert. Now, if you want to learn more about this stuff, OPC or OPC Expert or just OPC in general, come to our hands-on training classes where you can earn your certified OPC professional designation. And you do that by attending one of our hands-on workshops where you configure DCOM and OPC UA. And by the way, yes, of course, there's no traveling now. So we offer these classes remote, and we've done it for the past 13 years. So we've been doing it for a long time. It's in our blood to do this remotely. So you learn how to configure DCOM and OPC UA in a structured and very methodical approach. You learn how to troubleshoot these systems. You learn how to put your security together such that your firewalls are all configured properly. If you're using OPC UA, you can use one port or 2 ports or whatever you want. And exactly the same with DCOM. You don't need thousands of ports. You just minimize it to the smallest number of ports possible. And we show you how to remove user accounts. Which user accounts do you need? That's for authentication, then the authorization. How do you remove everyone and authenticated users? Do you really need all of these? So we show you exactly what is actually required, and you learn OPC best practices. Now you get to use 2 computers during these classes, so you control them. You're the administrator, you control them. You configure them yourself, and you troubleshoot problems. Once you know how to do that, well, we start breaking your connections, your communication, and then you have to fix it. And by the way, I see that your questions are coming in the webinar here. I will get to them right away. So you can attend one of our upcoming workshops. Again, remember, these are remote, so there's no travel. It's very, very interactive with a live instructor. These are live remote classes. These are not recorded. So it's actually live. The webinar, there's an education session, very much like what we're doing here. And then there's an actual hands-on portion, and the hands-on portion is actually pretty big. And you actually control these computers on your own, as I said. Now, they're public classes, which means that you join an existing class with other people from other companies. This is all done remotely. Or, since this is very much a skill, troubleshooting is very much a skill. It's not just something that you see somebody else doing. We have classes for individual companies. So we call these private classes, where it's for your people in your company. But whether you're doing public or private, whichever one you're doing, or you want us maybe to come on site after COVID is done, you can take a look at our website for dates at opcti.com. One last slide here, and then I'll get back to your questions. We're going to follow this webinar up with an email. So we'll send you an email, and that email will contain a link to this webinar recording. So this very webinar, we will you'll get a link to the recording. So those of you who are listening on the recording right now, just of course this was done on the 27th of August. You'll get a link to download OPC Expert. You'll get a link to some short videos showing you how to configure Excel. So we'll show you Excel examples there. It's already there. You'll see how to trend in real time and do reports, just like we've seen. And you will also get a link to register for our next webinar, which is Perfmon to OPC. So very much like Task Manager, but it's Windows Performance Monitor to OPC. It allows you to monitor your computer parameters in real time. So what your applications are taking in terms of CPU, in terms of memory, disk usage, network usage, and so on. And then you can take automated action like inform somebody, say with an email or a text, or you can actually start to kill applications or log information, whatever. But you can take, you can create your own computer condition-based maintenance program yourself. It's pretty cool, actually. Okay, so this is the end of the form part of the presentation. We got just a few minutes here. I'll get back to the questions that you were asking that I did not answer. So let's see. All right. Bogdan, you're asking, where are the details configured with the plugin saved? So, show you here. Get back to the computer. So as you can see, this is the data we have. So if we again click F9, I just updated, and you can see this is the time right now. I'll click F9 again. Okay, so Bogdan is asking, where is all this information saved? So I'll go File, Save As. Put this on the desktop. So there it is. We'll close this. So there's book one. When I open it up, I see that that the that the spreadsheet automatically updated. You can see it's now 11:35:02. Again, if I close this, so in other words, you can do daily reports and you can configure them to go from, say, midnight or last week or whatever. That's just from the start and end. And it's just saved right in your spreadsheet. Notice this is 11:35:02 until 11:40:02. If I close this and I open it again, what you're seeing is, what you should see, thank you, Excel. There we go. It was 11:40:02. Now you can see it's updated. So this updates all the time. So it's actually stored in the spreadsheet. Bogdan, I hope that answers your question. Jim, how many processed items can be logged into Excel from OPC Expert Historian? This is an interesting question. There is no limitation. So there are two things here. One is, the first question is, how many data items can I archive in OPC Expert? Right here. So there is no limitation. There's no limitation on the number of items you can archive. Second, once they're in the archive, how many can I retrieve using Excel? And again, there is no limitation. And like I said, very often you would be using an external historian, so you may not be connecting directly to OPC Expert. You might be doing this in your historian, but it doesn't matter. You can retrieve whatever number is there. Jim, that should hopefully, now, next question. If the OPC Expert is closed, will Excel keep reading or write from the OPC Expert? And if both OPC Expert and Excel are closed, is the data being updated in Excel in the background? Yeah. So the question really is, if I close this, will I keep archiving? Well, no, because it needs to run as a service. So, because once it runs as a service, then it'll keep on running. So you can go into Tools, Options, Service, and you just run it as a service. Once it runs as a service, it will keep archiving, which means that even if Excel is down, you can come back a week later and retrieve your last weeks of data. Oh, Jim, you're asking if I could share the demo. Absolutely. You'll get a link to a recording of this webinar. Is there an impact of the data archive with the performance of the computer? Clement, you're asking, is there an impact of the data archive with the performance of the computer? Absolutely. I should say absolutely there could be. A couple of impacts. Number one, let's say I'm trying to archive 1 million items every millisecond. Well, yeah, that's going to take a lot of CPU from the PC, so of course. So that will actually that can take a lot of CPU, but that's just an application. Perhaps maybe the next question is, well, what about the file size? Well, the file size, if we go in here, you can actually see the raw file, which in fact, I can even open from OPC Expert file, open file location goes right to that CSV. There it is. You can see the file size is pretty darn small. This is K, that's not megs. So it's really, really small. Over time, of course, if you want to store more or less, it will take more or less data. But these files can be gigabytes in size, and you can break them up into different files, of course. But they can be very, very big, but there's no impact. The size of the file itself has no impact on the PC other than, of course, disk usage. But that's it. The file can be very big, it can be huge, in fact, and they get very, very large eventually. But it doesn't impact your PC performance. Clement, I think I answered your question. All right, perfect. John, you're asking how to get real-time data into Excel. So I showed this actually in previous webinars, just to remind everybody, if you want to get the real-time data in here, we'll go to the real-time tab. We'll take some data just like this, drag it. It's a beautiful part here, and we'll drop it on Excel. And here it is. It's going to be updating. And as a nice little consequence, look at this. This is updated now in real time because it's forcing a recalculation all the time. But you can see how quick this is. These are all actually, it's doing real-time updates. Extremely inefficient, by the way, and you wouldn't typically do this. So it's just showing you that it can, because it is very, very efficient. So there you go. You're getting the real-time data. As soon as I stop the real-time data, so if I right-click and delete these, normally I press delete, but I just want you to see what I'm doing. Delete. There we go. I'll just delete these. Just the information. There we go. Okay, so here we go. You can see that the update stopped. And again, if I click F9, it keeps on going again. All right, everybody. One last question, and then we'll finish off. Huberto, could you show again how to add the OPC complement on Excel? Oh yeah. So you're asking how do I actually get this OPC in Excel? And all you do in OPC Expert is you go to Tools, Options, General tab, and in the General tab, Enable Excel Features. That'll bring this here. And I should also mention, for some of you, if you don't see it, very often your IT people are preventing you from doing any of this. So what you need to do with Excel is right-click and Run as Administrator. Or if you're doing it from here, right-click, More, Run as Administrator. Or if it doesn't show up anywhere, which I've seen many computers where it doesn't, you just type Excel, and here, Run as Administrator. And then all of a sudden this thing shows up here. And that's just a Windows security features that your IT people have done. All right, perfect, everybody. Oh, and one reminder, Mark. Thank you for reminding me. The question is, will this work in OpenOffice or LibreOffice? And the answer is no. This is for Excel. There's the server, so LibreOffice can connect to this. But this, what we've done here, this add-in is specifically for Excel. But separate the add-in from the actual data storage and retrieval that's in here. If you're actually interested, anybody who's actually interested in OpenOffice, doing this in OpenOffice, just let us know and we'll see what we can do for you. In any case, once again, everybody, let me just finish this off. We will send you an email with links with this webinar recording, a link for OPC Expert download, a link to some short videos showing you the Excel examples, trending, and reporting, a whole bunch more actually, right in those videos, and an invitation to the next webinar. Obviously, if you're listening to a recording of this, you're not going to get that email, but the next webinar is on Perfmon to OPC, which will be at the end of September. We'll show you how to monitor real-time systems, take some actions on them, either notification, or you can actually do some automated stuff, set up a computer condition monitoring maintenance system, and you can do that. Again, everybody, thanks for coming to this webinar. I hope to see you at the next webinar, and until then, good luck with your OPC projects, everybody. Bye-bye. Jim, yeah, we will send that to you for sure. Roberto, thanks very much. Thanks, Roberto. John, you're very welcome. Clement, you're welcome. Jim, welcome. Hey, thanks, Randy. Appreciate that. Tom, you're welcome. Willem, for sure. You're welcome. Abdullah, appreciate it. Bye-bye, everybody.